Dad, we've seen loads of changes with regards to equipment and rule changes in football over the years. I guess VAR is a big one, isn't it? So what positives would you say that you've seen in football with regards to that? And how would you say that those rule changes have made the sport more inclusive, or do you think it's perhaps to the sport's detriment?
We see these trials and things and new things being incorporated within the sport now. If we're talking about football specifically, you touched on VAR, that's a huge one now and a massive debate, not always for the positive necessarily. I think it's one of those, I like the idea that it'll get more decisions right than wrong. How we come to those decisions is clearly something that needs to be improved and communicated better, I think. Goal line technology is a positive thing in more recent years. You know, I've played in a game where I think Mark Hughes scored a fantastic goal at home at the Dale once, and it hit the back of the net and it bounced back out. Yeah. And everyone just carried on playing. And it wasn't given, which seems absolutely crazy brutal. Now when you sat there talking about it with the technology and things like that. But you'd think it would have been picked up. And so goal line technology would have obviously helped with that and helped us in the game. The whole sports science of it, you know, development in technology, data analysis, there's so many positives things at a certain level of the sport. You know, we've got to appreciate this doesn't work all through the different levels and pyramids, so not everyone has access to that. But I think at the top level, there's so much positivity and improvement. The support, the welfare, the care of players, you know, the heading side of things is a whole new debate in itself, isn't it? You know, we see youngsters now that aren't heading balls to potentially sort of save them from any sort of, you know, sort of problems with that we're seeing from former players, you know, with those kind of problems with dementia and stuff that are clearly sort of talked about by heading related, and that's a subject in itself. So if we can help future generations by, you know, how we coach, how we play, how we train is a big thing for both boys and girls and men and women. The sport's massively grown on the women's side now. I know you enjoyed playing football as a young girl, and I think it's, as a sport, specifically my sport and my background, it's just a magical game to play for both boys, girls, men and women, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and I would love to tap into it now from a player's perspective, but so many things that could still be worked on and improved, you know, with all the technology and the science of things. You know, there's lots of things where we can still improve things, but a lot's being done, which is good as well.
If you had VAR in your day when you were playing, would you have got more red cards?
Correct. I'll answer that for him. I will answer that for him. Yes.
Let's just say I'm pleased VAR wasn't around in my day.
It's a good thing VAR wasn't around in his day, and it's a good thing he didn't play in the modern era, because I think you would have been fined and banned more frequently than you were able to play.
I would have had to have, shall we say, adapt to my style.
Just sitting out, I think, would have been the answer. It just wouldn't have worked.
I think from an equipment point of view, like there's ball, there's boots. I mean, there's touch specific boots that you can get. Not in Europe. Australia and New Zealand have got their own kind of brand that do stuff like that, which a lot of people will fly them in, or they've got friends that are going back and forward and stuff. So from an equipment point of view, you know, there's very little needed. From a rules point of view, you know, there's modified options of games, shorter games, smaller pitches, simplified rules that just allow people to kind of either very young or very old or new kind of just to enjoy the game easier when you kind of turn up, to make it, I guess, more accessible. I think probably the only real change I can think that would probably make it even more inclusive, which was a transgender policy that we put involved. There's no global policy, but from an England point of view, we put a transgender policy in a few years ago, which again is making it more inclusive when it comes to the gender parity of the game. it's a difficult subject, and everyone's like always got an opinion on it. But the idea was like, well, there's nothing like from a social point of view when we're playing like national events, that's all in place. When it goes to an international game, those rules don't apply because it's not from a federation point of view. But for like anything that we're playing in England or any competitions, those rules are kind of implemented. So you can, like, however you identify, you got to actually say, well, you fit into this team then, and that's how we count the numbers of stuff.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good actually. I think a lot of sports actually make it very uninclusive for trans people. So I think that's just another reason why touch rugby is inclusive for literally everyone.
I think for just the last point on like the developments of the sport is like one of the other things I mentioned earlier was like the research into the sport and the injury data and all of that kind of stuff. So that has been a big like game-changing kind of piece, which we'd never kind of thought of previously. So yeah, I think from a rules point of view, that was probably the biggest one. But from a development of stuff, that's probably the next kind of big thing. And I think there's still lots of work to be done in that area, but good.
Good stuff. Thanks, Greg. What legend?
The words I was about to just say.
Yeah, there's been quite a lot of changes really. But technology-wise, that kind of thing, massive improvement. You know, you film the games, you can analyse the games, which helps a lot of people see it from a different perspective. But even just digitally altogether. So at Perform, what we do, we're about to launch our Perform app, and you can get support. Not everyone can get somewhere and be somewhere, but having that app where you get in touch with a coach, you're getting that support, nutrition support, for example, getting access to that digitally changes the game for a lot of people and keeps a lot of people fit and motivated in ways that we've never really had before. Because in the past you rock up, you get your hour of training, and then you go home and you don't think about anything else. But if you can get that kind of digital support, you can there's more ways now that you can just keep improving, and you can speak to more people. I think a lot of it is just sharing the knowledge and helping. You know, not everyone knows where to look, so if you've got that support, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that's huge.
I think there's so much change from our day, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Even something as simple as resistance. Yes, you may have had maybe I don't even know if I saw a sled. We just used the tyre and, weights belt and put a hole in the tyre. Old school. So, now there's a machine, I want to say it's £15,000 that does the same thing as the tyre, but it's more controlled. So everything that's created is for safety. I had a bungee that was a rock climbing bungee cord that I'd have somebody like 30 metres, so you're resisting, and then he'd kind of run, and then I'd start running.
A catapult.
Right. Oh my word.
But that clearly wasn't safe because there's no control of the speed. So this machine can control the speed so it's not too fast, so you can control it, whereas health and safety, we just went for it. But look, I think the spikes have changed. In our day, the spikes were heavy. Now the spikes are getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Obviously, that brings its own problems because with change, the body's going through a change because there's a different amount of impact. The surfaces have changed over the years, but probably the biggest one I'm lucky enough to be involved in that could change the sport forever. I'm working with a company that's creating a censored track, so the level of data we'll be able to get for that and how it will change the fan experience, the coaching experience, the athlete experience, everybody's experience from this kind of change is a different level of change.
That's exciting.
Surfaces have changed over the years, but the actual tartan track surface hasn't changed for maybe 60 years, something like that. So this would be a huge change.
And I know the data side of it. I know fans sometimes maybe don't quite understand the data side of stuff and think, why are they talking about XG in football and all that kind of stuff? But like from people in the game, is that actually really helpful?
Well, I think especially in football, you've seen how data has changed the way people view football. People that didn't understand data, it takes you back to school a little bit going, maybe I should have been listening in that lesson when they were talking about percentages and all of that type of stuff. I don't need percentages. But you know, all that type of information now, everybody's thirsty for more and more and more. And again, it's because everybody digests information in different ways.
Yeah.
Whether I watch 90 minutes of football, or maybe I'll just pick up the 5-minute highlights where it's just the goals, or I can extend it a bit further, get 15 minutes, or I can go onto YouTube and get a podcast where somebody will talk me through the intricate. So there's how can I put it? This world's trying to cater for everyone, how everybody consumes it. So yeah, I would say in track and field, the biggest change could be getting this data and making it understanding and obtainable for everybody. So then when you're watching 100 meters, you can properly get deep down into what it takes to be the fastest man in the world.
Amazing. Great answer.
Yeah.
This episode is powered by Shoshin.
Shoshin are here for the up-and-comers, the never-giver-uppers, the risers and the fallers, fueling the journey of all athletes with quality products.
For every kick, hit, pass, Shoshin are there. Sharing your passion for nurturing athletes. Together, we can empower the next generation of athletes, one game at a time.
Ready to play. Set to improve. Shoshin.
To find out more information on Shoshin and where to purchase their amazing products, visit www.shoshin-sports.com.
Well, I think there should be an open door for development at all levels. I think certainly your football club's got to be part of the community.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just take myself back to Burnley. Without Burnley Football Club, Burnley as a town is just a town. You know, another struggling town in a way. But through the football environment, Burnley in the community and everything, there's a definite feel of togetherness.
Yeah.
You know, we're better as a group than we are as an individual. So I think that's really important. I think football and sport has a real part to play in all that, because it can bring a lot of good to an environment. I think there's a lot out there that is good. There's a lot going on. But I think there's a lot of other things where they need to get down to the nitty-gritty of let's be positive, let's really give something back rather than take. You know, I think that's an important thing, because it's easy to, we're getting political here, but it's easy to put prices up, and I get that because that's the business aspect of it. But ultimately, where are your supporters now?
Yeah.
You know, are we providing, you know, for the disabled? Are we providing for the underprivileged? Are we providing for, you know, even the sort of the issues we've got now with stress, mentality, and all this lot. But again, for that moment, your football club might be the one place to go where it's a great time for a couple of hours,
Absolutely.
regardless of the result.
Absolutely.
So the emphasis should be, again, I think, on community and education and kids. But more of it. I think there's loads of things, getting players involved in a lot more in the community, whether they're willing to give up that time because they're all stressed out through complaining about more games and more hours training and travelling and all that. But I think there's still an element where they need to get out there and feel it a little bit.
I agree.
That down for you. The equipment side of it, I guess in terms of technology, you know, like it's obviously getting really, really advanced now, but the mouth guards that you've got, they're actually, like, you can get mouth guards now that actually can, like, track how much impact you're having during a game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think they were trialling back home, I think.
Well, a lot of the England boys are wearing them now. The England international boys, it just records like the impact directly to the head during the game, live data. So I think last weekend in the Six Nations, one of the players in the England team had to come off for an HIA assessment because he'd experienced such a big impact. So they get that data live, and it is incredible.
Future.
And from a safety perspective, that's incredible, because like you said, if you're able to bring a player off, if you know that there's been a particular big blow, you know, that's wow.
100%. So that's a massive shift. I think they're still diving into that side of things, which would be really interesting to see how far they go with that. The rule changes in terms of inclusivity, was that the question? Yeah. Well, I mean, in schools, like if we're talking on a school level, like community level, like the fact that we can like back home we'd obviously mix with anybody, like girls, boys, girls, but here I think it's a little bit different. But if you introduce a game like touch rugby or tag rugby, but specifically you can then start to mix the genders and it's inclusive for all. Obviously you can adapt rugby sessions for like even kids with disabilities, or we can make rugby can be played by anyone, as I said earlier, but it's about making it that safe space and like we've spoken before, like
I think it's become huge. Like the women's side of rugby, I think in the last few years has grown like crazy. Like my cousin, she plays professionally for the New Zealand Sevens team. She's the captain, but she's like, I just know that she's such an inspiration to so many girls back home. And then you look at the American, I can't remember her name, she just signed with Bristol Bears women's team, and like they literally, their Instagram following doubled overnight. But for the women's teams, like it went from 20,000 to 40,000, and I think it's just become like so inclusive for women as well, that it's like really driving the game for them. It's been class.
That's how it should be, isn't it? The sport's for all, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And if you can't see it, you can't be it. It's like when we spoke earlier, I never played rugby because it was never an option for me. I also didn't have anyone to look up to that I knew, or even in the professional game that was playing. So nowadays, hopefully girls are growing up thinking, hey, I want to be like her, I want to be a red rose, I want to play touch rugby. Like it's we're in a good place. It's definitely going in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I think the sport is constantly adapting. I think from a safety perspective, there was a change in equipment back in, I think it was 2000 now. They changed the vaulting table to make it safer for the gymnasts. You look at the structure of the floor now, it is a lot springier than what it was, which obviously makes it not easier, but safer for the gymnasts as well. I've forgotten the question.
Essentially, what's your views on kind of any rule changes or equipment that may or may not have helped the sport?
Yeah.
So there's been a few changes within equipment. The sport is constantly adapting. So obviously, back in 2000 when I was competing, the vault was changed. That made it a lot safer for the gymnasts. You're seeing more skills being produced because of it, because it is safer for the gymnasts. The structure of the floor has changed. Again, you're seeing more difficulty within the floor skills because of the type of floor that's now being used. The age was changed. So traditionally, I don't even know whether there was an age limit, but you now have to be 16 in the year to be a senior on the women's programme, and that has encouraged gymnasts to prolong their careers. I mean, I was the first non-teenager to win a world title back in 2006, whereas now there's quite a few gymnasts that are continuing into their 20s, into their 30s, which is great for our sport. It's creating that longevity. So there's definitely adaptations that have been made within our sport. And I think from a British perspective, the fact that you've got lottery funding, that allows people to stay in the sport, because it allows them not to be thinking I've got to go and get a job, or it allows them access to fantastic facilities, to the medical support, the sports science support, to allow them to prolong their careers.
Mad to be older. See, I'm 27, isn't it? Or your 30s. I'm 40. It makes me feel like ancient.
Yeah, I think now we're seeing gymnasts on the women's side going into their 30s, which is great for our sport. You're seeing people. The Olympics used to be a once in a lifetime opportunity, whereas now you're seeing numerous gymnasts that have done it 2, 3, 4 times.
That's brilliant.
If I was in control of table tennis, I'd change it a lot, because I believe it's got so much potential to be such a beautiful sport for people to watch, and it's got so much potential to just change, totally revamp it and make it accessible for everyone to watch, make it cool, make it fun, make it just like, I'm not saying like darts, but like change it in a way where it sort of encourages fans, it encourages, characters. We have to build the characters of these people. We've got great characters in the sport, and we have to build them up and show people who we've got in this sport, and people will buy into that because you know, we love that, especially in England, don't we? We love sporting characters.
Definitely.
And
that's part of the story, as you say, we buy into that.
And that's part of the reason why I love the Paralympics, for example, because I find out about the athlete performing and I'm watching the sport and it means something to me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we have to realise in table tennis, that people don't just buy into what they're watching. They don't just buy into the sport. They buy into the person. They buy into the story. They buy into everything about that person. That's what makes you enjoy the sport, like even more. So you might know about that person. You might know the story, or you might even, for example, just like his character, like the walk-ins that he does. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You'll be like, oh, I love the music that he has. You know what I mean? I don't know, but
sport
try
is
and think
stories.
about that rather than think about, you know, just playing table tennis.
Yeah. Sport is storytelling.
Yeah.
And in every sport, there's a story behind why someone does a certain thing or why a team sets up in a certain way, and that's the beauty of sport.
And I think, like, from my memories of like why all the footballers I love are massive characters.
Yeah.
Like Eric Cantona or someone like that. And I'm not even a Man United fan. I'm an Arsenal fan. Dennis Bergkamp, Ian Wright. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Matt Letizia. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Who's got that swagger or something like that? You know, who's mavericks. They're like mavericks of the sport, and that's exciting for anyone, isn't it?
But that's what you buy into, isn't it? Because people are attracted to that because they might say, yeah, Will Bailey, I want to go and watch Will. It's not necessarily let's go and watch table tennis.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, people feel that way too, but it is, as you say, the personality side of it is enormous.
And who would have thought, to be honest, like, no disrespect to darts.
Yeah.
But like I'm not being funny, but who would have thought that you'd be able to watch darts and enjoy it? Yeah. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's everything they've done around it.
It's not someone throwing at a dartboard that I find exciting. It's just everything about it. Yeah. Like it's just the atmosphere, the fans. Like, I'm just like, this is crazy. This is a game of darts we're watching here.
Yeah. They've made it a spectacle.
And it's a spectacle, and it's fun, and it's enjoyable, and you can relax, and you can have fun, and you can take the mickey out of each other, and there's no rule. You know, it's not so rule obsessed.
Are you saying you want to walk on?
That was my question.
If so, what is it going to be?
You know what? All I need is an opportunity. Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn, come to me. No, seriously. Come to me. Give me a chance. Sky Sports 1 or whatever. I could transform table tennis. We can make it into a good product where people can come and watch beer, music, walk-ons,
nicknames.
You know, nicknames. You know what I mean? Shirts that you've got little. It brings a bit. You need to.
This is the official shout out to
Barry and Eddie Hearn.
I can see it.
Isn't it?
Me and Kenzie take our 10%.
See? No, I think it's got potential, and I think like it could be really cool. And you have to bring the right people and the right characters and get the right vibe. But it's got a lot of potential. The sport is cool. It's great to watch. It's exciting. It's fun. And it's cool if you give it a chance. Like darts, you wouldn't have thought, would you? But
it's a good case study. Right, final question then. What would be your walk-on song, and what would your nickname be?
This is a good question. What's that song? Da, 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 da.
Seven Nation Army.
I quite like,
Will Bailey.
You got it.
Will Bailey.
I quite like that one. I like that.
I see
it. So probably that one for a walk-on. That's quite a good one.
That's perfect.
What was the other question?
Nickname.
I don't know, something Bailey, isn't it? I don't know. Bad Boy Bailey or something like that.
Bad Boy Bailey! All right.
Will Bad Boy Bailey.
Bad Boy Bailey. It has been a pleasure.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Sport. Guys. It's been amazing.
Thank you.